all over the news. So this year, there's really this heightened alert.
There is. Yeah, so when somebody's throwing water balloons when the speed limit is 50 miles an hour and it's coming across your windshield and you can't see until you know now to turn on your windshield wipers, that can definitely cause an accident.
Yeah, Los Angeles is going to be ground zero for the movement this year, so just be aware.
And in California, they fill the water balloons.
What does that even mean?
What was that? They fill the water balloons.
I was shrinking in DC. I was saying.
So if you're throwing water balloons on PCH, okay, when people are driving, you don't think that that's going to obstruct motorists?
I mean, gosh, love you.
So have you ever gone to the big celebration in DC? Like, I've gone to 4th of July on the mall, and you go through security going in. Like, you have to have a ticket to go into it. But there's like a lot of people gathering outside of the area where, you know, you're really just on the grass in the mall, but you're, you know, there's nothing separating you necessarily from the people that are on the street. Maybe some kind of fencing they put up.
Well, to that point, they just held the military parade, the Army parade there, and that was right there at the mall. So I would have to venture to guess that at least this year, Trump, you know, it'll be well protected. But in other major cities, I'd be very.
I think they're doing the no scale. What do you call it? The fences around the White House. I don't know if you saw that. I don't know what that's about, but yeah, I think it's something related to what you're talking about.
Just maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're prepared.
Which one of those? Which of any of those things can help us from the nukes from Iran?
Well, I mean, Iran can't get a nuke all the way across. Never mind. They don't. Yeah, they could definitely.
Ultimately, they can. I mean, ultimately, they're developing the delivery system that they can get to.
But they don't have it yet that we know of.
Exactly. No, we're talking about lone wolf actors.
Yes, lone wolf actors for sure. Yeah. I mean, and they don't even have to be from Iran. They could be some crazy kid, they could come from
Iran, they could be right here in America.
But can't people be happy that
well, the nukes aren't here in America. Well, the Iranian nukes aren't here in America. We obviously have nukes. Sorry.
Can't people be happy that there's a new black fence around the White House? Like, I mean, it's just, you know, people just can't just embrace like the small stuff.
I'm just saying that in a Midwest city, after I watched the George Floyd riots, and I was on the phone with the mayor's office saying, why the hell are you stopping them from burning down our city? And there was a response from the mayor's office that was like, they're going to do what they're going to do. And you watch the city get burned and all the businesses go down. Like, no, like, that's the reason that I won't take my kids into that situation. It doesn't have to do with the warnings. It doesn't have to do with the situation with Iran. It just has to do with common sense that the people in charge in a lot of cities across America are not responsible human beings, and they ultimately don't care if their cities burn. They will just raise the taxes and keep on going.
Yeah, there's definitely, it's problematic when you have people who are pushing racism, pushing gender issues, pushing, you know, the warfare stuff, and on top of that, they're dealing with, you know, everyday lives themselves. And I don't know, there's something about this 4th of July I just think is a little bit different. There's, you know, a lot of things that are kind of taking place in and around this time. Not to, you know, shout this out again, but this big, beautiful bill is on the table. You know, the Diddy trial. There's a lot that's taking place, you know, on the West Coast with the wildfires. There's just a lot that's happening. Could you imagine that if they find Diddy guilty before 4th of July? That's going to be a whole American freak-off. I'm telling you, that's going to be a whole American freak-off, fireworks and everything. I'm telling you. There's going to be baby oil in the street. If they find him guilty, wait. If they find him guilty or not guilty? No, I said guilty. Oh, please. Oh my gosh, I was thinking the opposite of if they found him not guilty. I I feel like there's a lot of people who are just gonna have a major uproar about it.
Well,
But I
think
also,
it's
I think he's going to get pardoned.
situation.
I think he's going to get pardoned if he's found
Well,
guilty.
Well, the thing is, I don't know about that, but the thing is,
I don't
if you
know about
listen to
that,
the
Anthony.
actual, hold on. If you listen to the actual charges, the racketeering, etc., they don't have the burden of proof, so therefore he shouldn't be found guilty. Is he a disgusting human being? 100%. Like, do I want him anywhere near any female that I know? Absolutely not. But the burden of proof for breaking the law isn't there, so it's not. Please don't be shocked if he's found not guilty.
I was
So,
gonna say there's a
just-
oh, sorry, go ahead.
So I just got an update for that. So I was reading earlier, the jury has come to their ruling. Yeah, they've come to their ruling on 2 or out of 5 different counts. So the one they've been hung up on is the first count, and the judge has told them to continue deliberation.
That's the
And I guess they
racketeering
must
one,
have
right,
voted.
Joe?
The verdict you're saying
It is.
on everything but the first count, Joe?
Right,
Yeah.
Abby, so if you
But
look
they
at,
haven't released it yet.
Did they reach a verdict?
Oh, four out of 5.
no, they didn't, they reached a partial verdict. So
Yeah, they
basically,
voted.
Okay.
right, so basically from what I understand, Abby, and you're a better expert than I am, but from listening to what I've been able to listen to, they sent a message to the judge asking them to clarify certain definitions as to the elements of the crime and to how that, you know, that rolls into the jury instructions that they've been given, if that makes sense. So, I mean, if anybody wants to look up what the first charge is, because, you know, the first charge and the lower and subsequent charges they were predicate charges. You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of one of those things. Did they find him, you know, guilty of prostitution, but not the overall encompassing racketeering charge? You know what I mean? Like that's where I'm kind of just like, what's going on? You know what I mean, Abby? Like it's.
I heard one of the questions that they went to the judge about was, like you're mentioning, Dr. Adams, it was like if someone's at the freak off or whatever at the party and someone asks for drugs and then you give them the drugs, are you now a distributor of drugs? Like you're not selling it to them, but they're asking for it. So is he now distributing if they're just asking for it? I think that was one of the questions that I heard.
Right.
They're also upset about
And I feel like some of the later
about they're
counts.
trying to get a juror removed or some shit.
And I feel like some of the other counts, like the count like 4 or 5 or whatever it was just like the promotion of prostitution. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So maybe they
Right.
found him guilty on that, but then they're not necessarily finding him guilty on the overall sex trafficking. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right, because there's like a
Like, Abby, does that even
arson.
legally make sense, though?
There's, first of all, the first count, and I haven't followed this enough, but the first count was the RICO one, wasn't it?
It's
Right.
racketeering.
That's the
Exactly.
overall umbrella
That's the-
charge.
Exactly.
Racketeering conspiracy.
But you're asking whether, with the prostitution, whether he was engaged in like what you would have in view versus just someone who's soliciting it. I mean, they're different.
That's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
for there to be like trafficking, which was and see that's the thing. Overall umbrella charge with RICO is just implying that it was a part of a criminal network. Now, two things can be true at the same time, if I'm not correct, to where you can still engage outside of a criminal network and still be guilty of these federal charges for your activities that, you know, maybe perhaps a jury found you guilty of. I mean, is that like a correct understanding?
Well, they found him guilty on what, 4 of the 5? So yes, he can be guilty of the underlying crime, which it sounds like they found him guilty of. And what did they go back? They asked for the elements of the crime. They asked the judge to clarify the jury instructions.
So it
which
could be a
would
difference
mean
between.
how they apply those elements and whether the elements match the facts.
So could it be like? Could
Remember
they convict him?
that the jury is a trier of fact.
Well, but
Right.
I don't think we know that they. I don't think that we. Hold on, hold on. I don't think that we know that they found him guilty. We just know that they have a partial verdict. We don't know which way those verdicts went.
Yeah,
Or did I miss something?
Well, right, but she's basically saying that there is it out of 4 of the 5 have been resolved, so they made their decision.
Right, but we don't know.
We don't know
but
which
we
of the
can't-
4 of the
We
5.
don't know. No, and we also don't know which way the 4 of the 5 have been.
That's what I'm
resolved.
saying. So
Yeah.
again, that's why I'm asking the question. Can
We
he
do know
be found?
which 4 of the 5.
Hold on. I'm asking Abby, and I'm not trying to be. So I just want to stick with the slot for a second. So can he be found guilty for elements of the crime that would contribute to the overall RICO charge without them finding that the overall encompassing RICO charge was a criminal enterprise? Because that basically is the undertone of what is required for the overall RICO charge, correct? Like he could be guilty of these individual acts, but did it relate to a whole entire criminal enterprise? That's a whole nother conversation. Am I
It's also,
wrong?
it's the difference with the RICO on sex trafficking can be life in prison. I mean, it also has to do with the penalty and what, there's mandatory penalties. So, but can you be guilty of sex trafficking without having a criminal enterprise? Yes.
Mhm.
The question is how advanced that criminal enterprise is, and what you're saying, what you said earlier, and their burden is to, if they've met their burden to show.
Well, I'm basically saying if the jury is, questioning anything on revisiting any sort of instructions on count number 1, then they may perhaps be questioning whether the encompassing acts were a part of a criminal enterprise, as opposed to a standalone act of violating federal law based on those individual acts. And that could, that could be predicated based on participation. That could be, I mean, it's one of those things, because I mean, a lot of the things in question was the intimidation factor. You know what I mean? As far as, somebody basically feeling intimidated in his station in life, showing a display of violence, in front of them, of feeling like, I had no other choice but to be compliant. So again, maybe the jury is arguing back and forth. Does that go to the overall aspect that everybody worked in tandem to create this criminal enterprise or otherwise? That's what I'm kind of going at. Does that make sense, Abby?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand his lens. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I understand your lens of it, but can I ask, why are you, maybe I'm misunderstanding, why are you saying that the RICO is the umbrella of all of this? I thought it was the racketeering.
Which falls under the RICO.
Yeah, RICO.
Why did I think that it was separate?
No.
No, it's
Racketeering
not.
is one
It's
of,
one of the same.
It's one of the major components of the RICO Act. It's of the RICO Act. Like it falls underneath that umbrella of RICO.
That's like
If that makes any sense. So like basically yes. So they came up with the RICO Act, which was racketeering. I forget what the ICO is, but essentially that's how they took down Al Capone and the mob, etc. And these are
It's the Racketeer Influence and Corruption Organization Act.
Thank you, Abby. I appreciate that. Yeah, I didn't know what the others were for. But yes, so racketeering is under RICO. Angel, that was
So what, maybe when I was listening in the room earlier, did they put something aside out of that RICO? Because wasn't there 5 factors that had to be?
So there's the overall RICO charge, from what I understand, Abby, and then there's other factors that fall under the RICO charge.
Right.
The actual criminal acts under the criminal organization accusation, I guess. It's kind of one of those things where it's it's an umbrella set of terms, and then you have these other charges that sit underneath it, where I mean you could be guilty of those said acts, but at the same time you're not necessarily a criminal enterprise. And that's why I asked for the
But they
difference.
only have to meet 2 factors out of the racketeering.
Just go with the concept that if you're involved with the RICO charge, you may not have committed one of those crimes directly, but if you're connected with the RICO, then you can be found guilty of that within that whole enterprise. And if that whole enterprise has committed a particular crime, then you can fall under, like, it. When you talk about umbrella, that's the umbrella. It's like, do you understand how felony murder rule works? Do you know? So like bank robbers that go in and rob a bank,
Yeah, I got it.
and then someone gets murdered. The guy driving the getaway car
is also a part of it too.
is also a part of it.
Yeah, it's like anybody in the room.
Okay.
Anyone is, exactly. So,
Yeah, so when I heard
so that's your
earlier,
umbrella.
yeah, okay. So when I heard earlier, like, I don't know what was being said, but for some reason it made it seem like the newest update was that that something was out of that. Like, they eliminated something out of that, and he only needs to get 2 counts out of the SOSEC 5 that are under this racketeering, correct?
Well, but Abby, I feel like it's more sensitive than that. I feel like it's where the money was lent, or where the money was given, who assigned
Distributed out
certain
to.
direct,
Yeah.
right? Like, who signed
Yeah.
certain directives and who monetized based